ladies and gents. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, to all of my new subscribers, and thank you for staying with me, to all my new old subscribers. I really appreciate you guys, and it means the world to me, really. Yeah, um, you guys. So I was going to first of all, I hope you guys are all taking care of yourselves really well and doing really well. Um, Today in today's video, and I wasn't going to make a video today, but I decided to anyways because I have a lot of topics that I want to discuss, and some weeks, my inspiration isn't really there, and like I'm having a hard time like coming up with what I'm going to discuss. But then other weeks it all comes back to me, and maybe once I take like a longer rest, or maybe I sleep a little bit more, then everything comes back, and my inspiration is there, and then all these ideas start flooding in, and then I have to like write them down. So this is what I do actually, and yeah, so I've been meaning to discuss a lot of topics with you guys, and I think you will find a lot of them extremely interesting. For some of you, maybe, while for others, not so much, right? So, I don't know, take what you like and watch it, I guess, right? But, anyway, so guys, I wanted to discuss something that, uh, and before I mention this, okay, I just want to say that sometimes God will allow you to have certain experiences, right? And also, it's not always God, right? It's just us. It's free will, right? Because people have free will to choose, right? For the most part, and so sometimes we don't make the best decisions, right? And so because of those decisions, we end up going into the wrong direction, right? Into the direction of darkness, perhaps, right? And but some experiences, or some decisions lead to a much worse or much worse outcomes than others, right? Um, but I believe going into any direction can teach us, and so even if you do end up taking the wrong turn, perhaps, and going into the darkness, this can help you actually understand the darkness better, right? And so when you do come out, which eventually you probably will, right? As pain will push you out, right? Pain is like the greatest teacher, right? And so uh, this has been my experience, at least throughout my life, right? And so I learned that darkness, going into the wrong direction, can teach us a lot about the darkness. It can help us understand the darkness, and so in turn we can possibly teach others not to do the same or not to go there, right? And of course, most people will not learn from other people's experiences. Okay, they need to have their own, and that's one thing that I also realized, is that people have to go through their own experiences. They're not, just because you tell a child, for example, I'm not saying that people are children, but I'm saying that, um, you know uh, just to take a child as an example, right? Because I have a child. You can tell them like, oh, don't do this, right? Because it's this and this and that, right? And you explain to them the reasoning, right? They will still do it, right? They will still do it, and even when they get older, they'll probably still do it because, yeah, that's the way the human brain works. That's the way the humanity functions, right? We have to step on those rakes ourselves in order to find out, right? Like, and stepping on the rake is like a Russian expression, like, don't step on the rake like twice or something like that, right? It's like, no, like, don't make the same mistake again, right? But anyways, through mistakes, right, and we can teach others, right? And in hopes of, uh, them like listening to our advice, right, and not making the same mistakes. But people for the most part don't do that, so like it's okay, right? Anyways, but yeah, so guys, I've gotten a little bit addicted to something, okay? I have to be honest, okay? And uh, I just understood a lot about this thing, okay, in particular, and yeah, some things were good about it, okay, and hence the addiction, okay, and some things were not so good. Most of the things were not so good, and these are the things that I will mention in this video, so you don't make the same mistake as me, so you don't become addicted to that thing, okay. And guys, that thing is it's my addiction uh, to watching collective tarot readings, okay. It was a huge mistake, I think, and I ended up learning a lot about it, and I want to teach you guys, about this and why it was a mistake for the most part, okay. But first of all, right, let's just I don't know the verse, um, so I'm just gonna pull up my phone and I'm gonna read it to you, okay. um, okay, so in Deuteronomy 18:9-14, right? It says, that's what it says about tarot, right, in the Bible. Don't practice divination, sorcery, fortune telling, witchery, casting spells, holding seances, or channeling with the dead. People who do these things are an abomination to God, okay? And so, I agree, okay? And I agree for more reasons than one, okay? Uh, First of all, right? First of all, let's go back to my childhood, okay, on this. Um, I always, when I was at fairs, right, as a child or as a teen, and I would see these fortune telling booths, right? I would never go in. Like something in me just was completely against it, you know. Even though my mom was into this stuff, right, and I didn't even kind of like. I just didn't. I thought that it was just stupid and silly, right? And just I didn't. Um, and it just some like I said, my intuition was very strong, right? And always it was very always very strong. And in most cases, I didn't listen to it, okay, when I was younger, right? But I also did, right? And so something in me just told me that it's just to stay away from tarot, okay? And even though I was a really curious child, right? I was interested in pretty much everything, right? I got my nose into too many things, right? I had way too many strange personal experiences that I might discuss on in my videos, But what I wanted to say, right, is that um, my intuition was always against tarot, okay, and I quickly realized, right, that a lot of these tarot readers um, have really dark and bad energy, right? Um, and even going near them, I could feel that energy, and it was really bad. It was something like extremely, like I said, dense, right? And the readers themselves had very dark energy too, and I always felt that, and so I never engaged. I never let them, read me or give me a tarot reading, and so, yeah, and in the past, my brother too, I think he has gotten into this too, okay? And there's a long story about this too, okay? But I believe he had the tarot cards, right? And I just looked at it and I was like, no, I don't want to deal with this, okay? I just, I want to stay away from this stuff, basically, So once again, I just kind of listened to my intuition. I didn't, and I really decided not to dive deep into any of the witchcraft stuff, any of the spell castings, any of the new age stuff, basically, right? I just there were certain things that did interest me in new age, right? Like different religions. And so I got a whole bunch of books on that, but a lot of them I haven't read, and I never got to read, because I had way too many books and I was just interested in other stuff, right, at that time. And so there's that, right? But yeah, and so when it comes to tarot, right, there were people that were trying to get me trying to give me a tarot reading, right? And but I always said no. I always stayed away, right? But that's just physically, right? But let's go back to this time, okay? um, yeah, I did for some reason started. I don't know how. Actually, before I started, right? Before I started watching them, um, my intuition said no. You shouldn't watch them, right? And I went against it. Okay, I went against it, and so I started watching them. Right. Once again, I have to say that based on the reader, right? Certain readers are they have a very good energy about them. Very good energy, very beautiful eyes. Others. Terrible energy, very dark eyes, right? So you can tell which reader is going to give you a very positive message and which reader is going to give you a very negative one. Okay, so I also kind of watched a couple of the dark ones, maybe one or two, right? Just out of curiosity, and of course I discovered very quickly that they tell you things like, you know, you're being stalked, and basically they, or you're being watched, or bad things are coming, blah blah blah, right? So everything is negative, 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 right? And so and those are the readers that I knew to stay away from, right? And so, but to me, right, personally, and my addiction came with the fact that I wanted to hear an inspiring message. It was my like motivational videos of the day, so I watched it for motivation, I watched it for positivity, I watched it to get um, this boost of positivity, and just to hype myself up, and to kind of like, when I was having like a bad day, right, I would watch it, and it would boost me up, it would uplift me, so in that sense it was really good. In that sense it was, um, and if you watched the right person, right, then yeah, it was very inspiring, very encouraging, right? And they also shared a lot of wisdom, which was very interesting too, and so uh yeah and so it depends on the reader, right, once again. But yeah, and so guys, let's go into the all of the reasons that I basically wrote down here, okay? And why you shouldn't be watching tarot, okay, guys? And okay, so the yeah, um, it can watching tarot, right? Whether good or bad, it's a form of escapism, So it allows you to escape your emotions, first of all, that you really should be dealing with, right? Instead of running away from them, okay? And also, it allows you to escape your everyday life, right? And so if you're going through perhaps, I don't know, issues, or difficulties with your children, for example, right? It's just it's a way for you to escape, right? That pain that maybe you're stuck in, right, at the moment, right? And then everything changes, everything has cycles, right? And eventually things do improve, things do get better, right? But you guys, we all have struggles, right, that many maybe are not aware of, right, but you're struggling with, right? We all have struggles. Like, I know from experience and by talking to all kinds of different people, I know that people are going through so many different things, right? And so there's always something that someone is dealing with, right? I am, you are, and we all are, right? And so yeah, it's like I said, tarot is like it's a form of escapism. It's like watching or binge watching a Netflix, right? It's not really a good way to face your issues, your life issues. You could be doing that instead of watching tarot, right? You could be problem solving, trying to figure out how can I make this better, right? You could be I don't know, you could be dealing with your emotions too, also feeling them, right? Maybe writing them down in your journal, right? Instead of watching this stuff. Okay, so there's that, right? Also, it's a huge time waster. Okay, that's another one of my reasons. Instead of watching tarot readings, right, or the collective ones, right, which I got really into, you can be doing other stuff with your time, right? Maybe if you're looking for another position, you can be looking for that. Maybe you can create another project, right? Maybe you can create another book. Maybe, I don't know, you can learn how to code. Maybe whatever it is that you want to get into, you can do that instead, right? So it's a time waster. Um, yeah, like I said already, right? It does provide very encouraging messages, right? And so those really help, you know. Sometimes we need that positivity in our life, right? Especially we don't if we don't have anyone to talk to, right? And so you know, even a cheerleader, right? Like a very positive, inspiring person, they need a cheerleader, you know. And so like there's nothing wrong with that, right? And so I felt like it was giving me that, you know. Um, yeah, nothing out of those reads, guys, came true. Okay, so it created false hopes, and if you attach to that, then it creates, you know, a lot of disappointment, right? So you get disappointed when things don't come to pass, like the tarot readers say, right? And so, yeah, they say it's not for everyone, right? So use your discernment. That's what they always say, right? But um, yeah, I mean, everyone who is watching, they think it's for them. And so, once again, they can end up very disappointed when those things don't come to pass, right? Also, um, more often than not, sometimes they say very dangerous things, right? Like, you don't even need to do any of the work, it will just come to you, right? And yeah, this can happen too, right, in your life, but it can keep you from taking the necessary steps in order to change your life, and that means taking action, right? So it can keep you from that. So there's a fine line, right? And so you have to be careful. Also, that stuff can be applied. You can apply pretty much anything into your life, right? You can relate a little bit with astrology, you can relate a little bit with tarot, you can the collective tarot, right? You can relate with anything, with being a chosen one, with, I don't know, any of the personalities, right? With being a Scorpio, whatever, right? So you can relate with any of those things, okay? So there's that. I will mention number six, okay? It's going to be the last thing that the last point that I'm going to mention, you know. But number seven, right? It can mislead you, and okay, and make you take the wrong decision, make you make the wrong decision in your personal life, okay. So once again, these messages can mislead you if you take them very seriously, right? And so you end up making the wrong decisions, okay, for you, right? And so these decisions also, they're like they're really big usually, you know. They have to do with relationships, right? And whether to stay or take someone back, right? Or you might end up staying with the wrong person, right? Like a narcissist, right? Or you might end up giving another chance to someone who is potentially toxic, right? Or maybe you will end up moving when you really weren't supposed to be moving, right? So, yeah, or maybe you might end up, I don't know, not taking a job that you probably should have taken, right? So, there's that, right, guys? So, once again, tarot, right, it makes you look outside of yourself, okay, and you start relying on external things to make the decisions for you, and that's a big mistake, right? Because you want to look within, always look within and talk to God directly. You don't need anything for that, right? You can connect to yourself, and by connecting to yourself, you can make the right decisions. If you're listening to your intuition, if you tap in and tune in, right, then you will know what to do, then you will be guided, right? Your intuition, your you know, you will also be divinely guided, right? And so you don't need anything in order to do that. You don't need any cards to tell you what to do. So always look within, right? And because that's where all of your answers lie, right? And so there's that, right? And it's very personal too, right? So you shouldn't be relying on anyone for that. Um, yeah, once again, if you're watching like tarot about relationships, right, and love, then it can keep you from moving on from that person too, right? And so maybe if it was someone that that maybe you wanted to be with, right? Or someone that like was in your life, right? And is no longer in your life, then once again it can keep you from moving on from that person by giving you false hopes. And that can keep on going for years and years, guys. Okay, so there's a danger in that, right? And so be careful with that. Okay, you can once again, um, moving on, right, is and learning from that relationship, right, and becoming better will ultimately lead you to, like a that's what I said right before, like a better version of you will attract the best version for you. That's the quote that I made up, right? And it's true because by getting better and by growing as a person, right, you will eventually attract a like-minded individual into your life. And so yeah, don't use tarot, if you're just getting out of a relationship, or if you didn't want to get out of one, right, and you were broken up with maybe, right, try to really process your pain, feel your emotions, and yeah, just go from there, yeah. Anyways, and last one, guys, okay? I do believe we're in a spiritual warfare, right? And so, guys, um, first of all, if you're getting a personal reading, right, which I never did, if you're getting a personal read from the wrong reader, okay, you can get yourself into trouble, because once again, that reader can be a bad spirit, right? And so, if you don't use your discernment, if you and which you're not, right, with tarot, you're going to be misled. They will surely mislead you into the wrong direction, and you might end up making some very poor decisions, which you will learn from, of course. But yeah, you can avoid doing that basically, okay, by tuning in, tapping in, and going within instead of listening to external sources, right? And so there's that, right? So pay attention to that, and I don't recommend going to anyone for personal reads, you know. And last but not least, guys, this one might be a little bit long, but I'm not sure. Okay, I'm gonna try to make it kind of short and sweet. Okay, but um, I highly believe that tarot readers use this as a form of escapism, okay? Even to do personal readings or to do collective readings. I've analyzed a couple of different readers, okay, and they were experiencing the same things in their lives basically. They were experiencing a lot of, one said she had anger issues, okay? The other one she was going through homelessness, Another one was living at home and had a lot of fights with her family, uh, and the other one had also problems with her children, and her children were taken away from her, so guys, these women, they were going through a lot of very difficult times. I believe they were very good women, but once again, by doing tarot, I believe they opened the doors to demonic oppression, okay? And so they started getting oppressed, and they started listening to their thoughts, right? And that created delusions, okay? um, I believe demonic oppression, right, or these spirits can be extremely loud and convincing, okay, when you open demonic doors, okay. And so this can really make you believe your thoughts, right? And especially if you're not aware of the concept, or if you're not really too um, if you don't have that much control of your own mind yet, so you can believe those thoughts, right? And so that's what I think these ladies are doing, guys. And they really, I think they opened themselves up to demonic oppression, which is happening to them, okay, in real time. They're documenting it, right, live, and that's really crazy, to me. But this was kind of interesting to watch for me, because I can talk about it now with you guys, okay, to just kind of tell you what I think is going on, And so these ladies, guys, they're saying that large organizations like Masonic organizations or societies, right, or clubs, right, are after them, right, and they're also saying that they're being poisoned, right? And so, guys, chances, I looked this up too, I did some research, right? And chances of you being poisoned, are extremely slim, right? And also chances of you being stalked by that type of a group are extremely slim too, right? Especially if you're like a tarot reader, right? Like they're just, um, the possibility of that is almost non-existent, okay? And so it's most likely to be a delusion, okay? Once again, it is a, guys, it's a way for them to cope with the stresses that they're experiencing and their anxieties, right? It's a way for them to explain their circumstances that are, away. It's a way for them to explain their circumstances and what they're going through. It's a way for them to explain it, okay? And so they're attaching to these delusions, right? That are very possibly created by demons, or told to them by demons, right? And so, and that's actually very common. These thoughts of being poisoned, right? And uh, you know and being like hunted by, these types of groups, right? These secret societies. It's like it's a very common delusion, okay? And it happens, they say, with personality disorders or even schizophrenia, right? In schizophrenic individuals, right? And so I don't know, I don't like to put a label on it, but I think once again it does come down to demons, demonic oppression, them believing in those thoughts, okay, and attaching to them. Why? Because they want to um, explain away all of the issues that they're going through. It gives them like an outlet, it gives an explanation, and in turn makes them feel safer or better or more grounded. And so there's that, guys. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this video. I wasn't gonna make it too long, okay, guys? Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and much love to you guys.